Darren is one of the newest members of FSC, and he's here because in the last 30 days, managed to sign 2 clients, I believe, in the last 30 days.
Yes, sir.
And just out of the blue, I got text to my phone, hey, one client signed and sold, and then right before, it was literally yesterday, earlier this week, another one had come through. So today we're going to talk about his experience with FSC and kind of everything that went into that, and I think talk more about the opportunity and really what it is. So with that, I mean, I sort of spin it to you, Darren. Where were you at prior to FSC?
Yeah, so prior to it, I mean, I've done a whole lot of things, but always in sales. He's a high-ticket closer. I led sales team, built sales teams, all that good stuff. Ultimately, just kind of stayed within the realm of just being a closer, relying on sales calls. Making good money, though. Not going to complain about that, but always relied on the sales calls element.
Right. Yeah, and I think there is, for the people that are in FSC right now, for those of you considering, if you come from the world of high-ticket closing, coaching, consulting, we tend to see results come a lot faster. And yeah, you work for a pretty big name. I don't know if you want to say the name of it, but you've pretty much been there and done that as far as experience and things go. So that's where you're at prior. What was kind of the switch that flipped in your mind that made FSC, I think, something that came into consideration for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is something that I have been looking into. So prior to going into it, if you will, I started an offer because I was like, well, I have this skill set that most business owners don't really have, which is, closing at a really high level.
Right.
I'm not going to say I'm an marketing expert, but I can...
Very humbly. You're not a marketing expert.
I can defend myself, right? But so I decided to launch an offer, but the one thing I realized about launching an offer is that there's a lot of work. Like a lot more work than when you are a closer. As a closer, I got used to just taking anywhere between 6 to 8 calls a day, making multiple 6 figures. I was happy. As a business owner, and I had a business partner who was helping me. I mean, we were both easily putting in anywhere between 10 to 12-hour days. And it kind of reminded me, by the way, I come from the 9 to 5 space, if you will, 9 to 5, if you want to call it that, because
way back when in the past life.
Way back then. Yeah. And it kind of reminded me of that, of like just like never-ending work and work and work. And I was like, hey, you know what? I'm going to cut things here and go back to just being a closer.
Right.
And I kind of searched for a model where I can still stay in sales but not work as much and still have ownership. And that's kind of where I found FSC. And when I saw your videos and your ads, I was like, I feel like this is what I've been looking for, dreaming about. And I knew something was out there like this because I know, fractional, account managers, or if you will, financial advisors and etc. I'm like, why isn't there a thing like this for, if you will, sales?
Right. And
I tried to do it by myself and failed miserably. So I was like, well, Kayla knows how to do it.
Yeah, just a thing or two about. and you bring up a really interesting point there, which I think is, there is a point in a salesperson's development where you get so good at sales that you're, how do I make more? It's either I start my own business where the whole pie is mine, or, and this is kind of where FSC has come, is maybe you go more of a partnership route, or you could find your way up and within a company. And yeah, I mean, what you said, I'd say is very true. I run into that owning FSC where there are moments where I'm like, it was kind of nice just being a closer. You don't have to deal with what comes on the other side of things. When I was in FSC, I really loved it because there is that piece where you can just stick to what you know best, which is the sales, the closing, and conversions. And then what was like the straw that broke that got you in, and then how was your experience coming into it initially?
Yeah, so my experience coming in has been phenomenal. And I think we talked about this in the sales call when you and I talked about it. As I was like, hey, I'm going to take it slow. I have all the things going on in the back end.
Take it slow. Take it slow. I had low expectations for what it was. And then, boom, right before he lands in Medellin, a client, and then like a week and a half into being into Medellin, closes another one. So yeah, so much for taking it slow. That's a salesperson for you. I'll just ramp me off or take my time.
Yeah. I think I just got to stay here. I think it's my lucky city.
I would argue, it's the Medellin. Sure.
But yeah, what essentially pulled me over, and I literally said this verbatim in the sales call. I know you're doing well because I understand marketing, and I understand what you're spending on your marketing and the way that you structure everything. And I was like, okay, this is like, he's doing well. And then I looked at your YouTube videos, which by the way, I rarely do. Like any content more than 5 minutes, if I'm consuming it, it's because I am very interested.
Right.
And I respect you a lot.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that.
So when I saw that video, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the first one was like 40 minutes long.
Yeah, 45 minutes.
Yeah. I was like, Jesus Christ. I put it into X speed, as I always do. And I was like, wow, this guy not only knows what he's talking about, but he's genuine. You told your story. You talked about not only your success in if you want to call it your failures per se.
Yeah.
Which most people don't really do. And what I really liked about it though was like what you learned from it and how you were very strategic about what's next for it.
Right.
So I was like, okay, like this guy can easily help me. And worst case scenario, I got really good at closing bigger deals. That's the way I looked at it.
Yep.
And then just going in, again, full transparency. I had no intentions on going into it, post my trip here in Medellin, but I had a little bit of free time before my trip and started diving in. And I was like, wow, this stuff is really good. I started applying things as I was learning because that's how I typically learn best. And it kind of worked like magic, if you ask me.
Yeah. And I would say, I mean, like I've said, it's kind of how it goes. I mean, that's kind of what part of me hoped that would happen to an extent where it's like, if you come in and it's something that makes sense and it speaks to you, you'll do it, just because it's hard not to do things that you find compelling. And I would say that thing that you mentioned there of just like the kind of consistent pursuit and wanting to figure it out, I would argue, I mean, that's something that you have and almost all the FSCs that I've seen. It's something that is just, I think, a character trait amongst us is this persistence in, okay, we're going to figure out what comes next, whether it's the highs or the lows or that we lose it all. It's, it's a never ending drive and trying to understand and continue to better and move forward. And I would say, FSC has developed a lot, even learning from, I think, your experience passively, where it's like, okay, so there's people that if we don't speak to them, talk to them, they just make it happen. He was very silent during his time with us. So, but yeah. And, and then I guess too, I mean, everybody, the biggest questions I always get asked is like, one, how'd you find the deals? And two, what was it like closing them? And if you want to talk your numbers too, for transparency, people are always curious about the numbers. So those are kind of the three core areas. Like, how did you find the deals? And then what was that process like in closing them? Was it viable? Was it something you had to convince people a lot of? A lot of people don't understand, like, there's companies that will pay you for this and that's how it works. So I'd be curious to get your take on those.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's funny because the way my mindset about finding the deals, because again, the space that I'm coming in from, it was like, well, I know I can't run ads, and I know that was one of the questions that I asked you. It was like, it made sense for me, my network. And I was like, cool. You always heard the saying, your network is your net worth, right? Like,
right.
So I just approached my network, and I started planting the seeds. Now, those seeds kind of grew very quickly, obviously, because they're turning into deals. Again, not expected by any means, but it was just my network, people that I worked with in the past, people that I've done work for in the past as well, or just colleagues. Right. So it's just reached out to everybody that I knew, reached out very strategically, really all the system, all the program. Wish I can give you something a little more fancy than that, but
it's a process, all the process for the most part, and it works.
Yeah, that's all I did. And then your second question, which was
the negotiation, and how receptive were they to this kind of offer and opportunity? A lot of people I feel like get caught up on it's like, okay, they think more agency where it's a fixed, I'm delivering salespeople, I'm delivering this, but it's a bit more fluid, as you know, where it's a promise of, oh, we're going to help you with these things. So how was that approaching those conversations, and what was that like?
Yeah, I think here I don't want to say lucky, because I think because I had the right conversations early on, it made sense right away. Right? Like, I identified that I had a sales issue. It's kind of like when you are, you have a sales call, right? You identify the problem first. That's the first thing that you want to do. And that's what I did, essentially. And so I identified the issues. I was like, oh, I can really help you there. Your options. You kind of been exploring them already.
Right.
I'm somebody that like and trust. Hopefully, the like part.
Just a little.
But I can deliver on this because either one, you see me do it out of some capacity with someone else to some extent, or like, here's my work history as So, long story short, it was very it was a no-brainer.
Yeah.
It's just we had to obviously go back and forth a little bit, which when you're negotiating with business owners.
This is a big one. Negotiations. For anybody who's just, a more traditional high ticket guy where it's just an offer, it's this or that, or you in or you out. That is a huge piece of it. But you have a background with that, experience with that for stuff you've done outside. This is understanding negotiations. So, but I say that, if you guys know negotiations or come from a world where you have to negotiate deals, you'll have an easier time with this. For those of you guys who don't, well, it's something you'll have to learn, something we do teach as well. But yeah.
Yeah, and again, that's something that you guys cover. I learned in there because even my sound negotiation was a little bit different. Than I was accustomed to. But so I had to negotiate a little bit, had to add some contingencies and, fun stuff and terms, right? And then from there, done deal.
But
it was again, from the beginning, already a no-brainer. It was just figure out the proper terms that made them comfortable to trust me.
That's exactly it. And the thing is, too, you know, in a heart of heart, we know that you probably won't have to enact those terms, but it's just them feeling like we're doing this deal in good faith to where, okay, you're looking out for my interest. And most of the time, if that is understood, they'll look out for yours, whether it's the biggest success in the world or it's maybe underwhelming. They still just like knowing that they're doing business with someone that they like. And that's a huge one. There's a lot of negotiators out there that are, it's buy or die, my terms, you know, my way or the highway. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then talk about a little bit about numbers. I'll talk about more of my last deal because I think it's the more exciting one. And the one that the structure like gave me a ton of confidence, if you will, on like where this could take me monetarily.
Yeah.
Because I was, you know, the sky's the limit. So
it is a very good deal.
But, you know, can't name drop the individual, but he has a coaching offer helping individuals go from like leave their 9 to 5 to start their own business that's in already parallel of their 9 to 5. He's doing about in cash collected about $100K per month. Himself had some sales guys, things didn't work out, but essentially I'm coming in at $3,000 retainer per month with a 4% commission of all sales, and any deals that I close personally, I'm getting 15% commission. You know, one of the benchmarks is that we want to get to scale to 200K, and then we're gonna negotiate. You know, we have some terms that, if you will, set in place as we're growing. My commission structure changes a little bit to obviously reward me for the growth of the company. Right. And then, of course, once we get to $500,000 in sales, it gets very, very lucrative for me. Right. And of course for the company too.
And for those of you guys who might think $500,000 in sales is a large number, I mean, for people that might not know your full background as a salesperson, you've been a part of multiple launches where we were just talking about it was like, oh, we would do $1 million more or less, and you know, it was good. And you know, it's like, most people will spend their whole life trying to make $1 million, right? Yeah. So and then another thing too is like sometimes you get the deal done just to get it done, and then once they have more faith and confidence and they feel that momentum, then it's okay. Well, now you become more dispensable, more replaceable, enter room for renegotiations. Yeah. But it's getting in, moving it forward, getting results, proving it, and then it all kind of works out full circle. But there's a big thing too that you talked about, which I think is having the confidence and drawing the line on your value too, and not letting things move. Where, you know, big dilemma or big pit that a lot of people get stuck is you start with FSC. There's a lot of things that you might know that you do that you just don't think to draw a line between your closing work and your development work and not putting a premium on that, where it's like when you're a closer, you're a closer. When you're an FSC, you're an FSC. And there are things that you will create that will live beyond you, that will create value past you, that should have a premium on it, put a tax on it, you know, especially if you make it good. So that was the first deal. That was the most recent one. I don't know if you want to talk much about the first one too, because you've got two that are stacked together now.
So the first deal, again, someone from my network, he's relatively new. His business has literally been around for like 30 days now. And I think I texted you this. The main reason why I took this deal is because there's a lot of opportunity there, and I like the guy. We have pretty good synergy there, and it doesn't take too much time of my plate, which is something that when we talked about.
Big one, right? As you said a moment ago, as a calendar rep, when you're just taking calls and calls and calls. Now you're fortunate to be in an offer that might not be like belt-fed back-to-back bookings, but ultimately it's when you can get yourself out of the place of needing to be a producer. That's when you get a lot more leverage for other things. So, but you were saying.
Yeah. So this deal is $2K on retainer, and then 20% on commission. The reason why it's a little bit more aggressive is because he's newer, obviously. So I'm doing per se a little bit more work, but it's also a lot less revenue that he's making. So obviously I need to make sure that I'm not necessarily counting my hours per, I want to earn per dollar. Sorry.
Dollar per hour.
Right? Yeah. But I am to an extent, because I don't also want to go below this threshold, because I also understand that if I'm dedicating this time here, and not just time, but more importantly to me, my energy, my mental bandwidth, that's going to limit me to do something else elsewhere. Right. So that was my first deal, not the prettiest deal, not the sexiest deal, compared especially to the first deal.
Well, from your first deal to your second, big jump, right? Now, who knows what the third one will be, right?
Yes. But that's something, by the way, that you talked about. I believe is one of the first sections in the program that I was like, that's true. And just something that I wholeheartedly believe in is it doesn't need to be perfect. Just get it done.
Yes.
Just execute. And that's why I was like, you know what? I thought about it, like literally passing on this deal. Like, you know what? Let me not do it. Let me look for the next or best deal. But how many times in our life have we done that and look for the, perfect opportunity versus creating the perfect opportunity?
Yeah. Right.
So,
I've even got a video on the channel that talks about that, where it's like you can turn bad offers into really good offers. And the main thing is you have enough experience and, the relationships to know that, okay, it's really about who you're working with and what the opportunity that they're providing is. Yep. If the opportunity they're providing is great, but they suck, there's no deal. But if they're really fun to work with and they've got the same level of commitment to you, you can take that and you can make it great. And then worst case, you're still working with someone you really like working with. Yep. But I say, looking at it when all is said and done, now that's $5,000 a month coming in before having to touch or take sales calls. In the opportunity, it's the expectation set up front is, hey, I'm not just going to be a calendar closer for you.
Yep.
So that expectation is set today. So if you spend 3, 6, 12 months there, there'll be a place where you can just free yourself from that. But if you're just the typical closer, what most typical closers do is there's nothing beyond that. You're waiting for there to be a management thing or for them to get to a place where, okay, you can take yourself off or you have to go someplace else to do that. But if you can find an offer, an opportunity you love and just get clear on what that working relationship is going to be day one and also get paid for that, then, you don't have to renegotiate later. Offers will go through more innovation than the working relationship between the people inside of the business. So, yeah.
Say that again.
Yeah. Yeah. What feels next? What's over the horizon? So you've got these deals. I know that you were like, well, I'm just going to kind of dabble in this, and now you've gotten 2 deals and a bunch of other stuff. But what do you kind of see next and over the horizon?
Yeah. So I think what's next for me is, I work for a pretty big name, Tanner Schuster, Drain Drop, and I worked for really big names prior to him as well.
Uh-huh.
And, what's next for me is just to find my next deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because I was laying down in my bed last night and I was thinking maybe I can approach Tanner for this. Might be an opportunity there.
Really? So repositioning yourself with your existing offer owner. That's what Daryl did. Daryl got a really good deal out of that. He's got 5K and 10%. And once they cross 100K, it goes to 10K and he's still at the 10%. So they do 100K a month. He's getting 20. That's, I think, the most lucrative one that I've seen as far as upfront class. So, yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
And we're both D's. So. But yeah, so, obviously consider that and consider just keep tapping into my network. I literally just started.
Yeah.
So what's next for me is literally finding my next deal. I kind of set a goal to stay anywhere between 3 to 4 clients tops. I think we talked about this in our call.
Yep.
And that's it. And, use that capital to invest into other things, which I told you this is mainly a vehicle to stay in sales because I love sales.
Yep.
But I also have other, ventures that I want to dive into.
Right.
For the future. So,
but the thing you said that's needed for that is your time. The cash is needed, but also more importantly, if you can get the cash and get your time back without that, then you can go more in other directions.
Absolutely. So it's just continue to find the deals that I'm finding like this. Honestly, it gives me the time freedom that I need to be able to allocate to other things. And then, of course, the cash that I needed as well, because you need both sometimes.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I think when you're new in business, you got more time than money. And then, you get bigger in business, you got more money than time. So, but yeah, this is something that can put you right in the middle. But what would you say for anyone who's a hardcore skeptic, maybe is watching this after having a call with me? And believe it or not, we do meet people, that's in Charlotte and you're going away, So,
yeah.
But yeah, for someone who might be a true skeptic or someone who might not get it or someone who maybe wants to and is on the fence, what would you say?
Just do it. Honestly, the more that, just do it, right? Like especially if you're in sales, like how many times have you told your prospects, your leads, just to take the step forward, take that leap of faith, right? One of the things I like about Caleb when we had the conversation was that he genuinely put my best interest first. Like, I told him, hey, this is something I'm kind of having.
I was thinking he shouldn't have done it.
Yeah, literally. He was like, hey, you can maybe just revisit this later, kind of slow down. You have a lot of things going on. And I was like, yeah, but I know myself, which is true, which is why I booked the call. It's like, hey, if I can do it with X amount of time, I'm rather do it now rather than later, because otherwise, like the other path that I have, I'm not a big fan of. And I know I'm going to have to eat the frog anyways, but I might as well do something that I enjoy in the meantime as I'm, doing something else.
Right.
But just do it. Caleb knows exactly what he's doing. His processes, you just got to follow the system. He's very responsive when you ask questions, which is one of the things I really appreciate. And the community is pretty dope. Like day one, when I came in, I had a handful of people DM me. He's like, hey, let's meet. I was like, cool, let's do it. Yeah. Which is what I really like. It generally does feel like a community. And I think this is truly the best in between of being a closer, like high performing closer, and a high-performing business owner. And the reason why I say high-performing is because nowadays everyone is a closer, or nowadays everyone's a business owner, right? But with this, like, you're able to truly leverage your skill set and your time like never before. And I'm just getting started. So I'm excited for the future.
I think we're not even 30 days in, or maybe just hovering right around the 30 days mark. Well, no, I appreciate that. And I mean, that's kind of the goal with FSC. I knew that to be business owner, you've already experienced it. It's a large jump in responsibilities and expectations. Every marketer will sell it to you as, oh, it's easy. But once you get into it, you've got people that you're responsible for. And so if you can do what you do best and love, which is just sales, training, development, and sit like with that in a business and get as much as you would as a business owner, maybe a little bit less because they own the opportunity, but spread that across a couple different businesses and you have that freedom of wanting to sell different things, then this is the way that the world is headed. You know, it's like great salespeople got to make great homes for other great salespeople. So, Darren, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. And for any of you guys watching this, if you're curious, somewhere around the video and, set up a call, set up a time, or maybe we'll see you in FSC. Any closing notes, questions, things to say to whoever might be watching it?
Yeah, guys, like I said before, and I'll say it again, just do it.
Pull the trigger, take massive action. It doesn't have to be perfect as long as it's moving forward. Well, with that, I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.
See you guys.